It has been 3 days since the announcement of version 1.6, live streamed with the absolutely insane bombshell of new endgame content, free doctor ratio, tons of quality of life updates. The biggest questions on players' mind right now is, as per usual, who should you pull for going into version 1.6? Hey guys, MrPokke here, back with another video, and today we'll be discussing the CN community putting opinions for version 1.6 with regards to Ruan Mei, Doctor Ratio, Blade, as well as Kafka. This regarding the fact that we are going to be getting Doctor Ratio for free. I genuinely cannot believe this shit, guys. This video will seek to cover some of the pool values each of these units have to offer, and with regard to Doctor Ratio, should players even invest in him after getting him for free, right? So without further ado, let's get into today's content. As usual, for the context of this CN pooling opinion, we will be deciding between who to pull, and the CN Hype Watch will cover the unit's speculative kit before release with greater details, in particular for Ruan Mei as well as Doctor Ratio. Since I know I have not been doing it for Huo as well as Argenti, but we're definitely going to be doing it this time around since Ruan Mei is of course an extremely popular character. Secondly, in terms of opinions, I'm basically offering the CN perspective based on the live stream event, and players should definitely do their own due diligence before committing into who should they pull, especially when consider that we do not know exactly what are their multipliers, what are their damage numbers, so definitely wait until the release first. This is simply just a heads up for people they are intending to pull. Lastly, our target audience is meant for the free-to-plays as well as the low spenders, under the assumption that the viewer gets one unit with no Eidolons and not pulling for signature icons. But this time around, it is a little bit different because we are getting Doctor Ratio for free, and I'll be discussing the pool value for Blade as well as Kafka, and in particular some of their Eidolon benefits in case people want to pull for their Eidolons as well. Right? So there's the context for this content today, and jumping straight into the estimated pool income. Version 1.6 is going to be lasting from 27th November to the 6th of February, lasting for 2 days, just like version 1.5. After summing up almost every single benefit that we have been notified of as of the version 1.6, the live event such as Gift of Odyssey, Daily Mission, Stellar Jades, Memory of Chaos Clears, Simulator Universe, Battle Pass, Character Trials, events, all that kind of stuff, this is the rough amount that the CN community has compiled together between the free-to-plays, monthly card holders, as well as monthly plus Battle Pass spenders, right? So for the complete free-to-plays, inclusive of the 1.6 first half, which is Ruan Mei as well as Blade, and the 1.6 second half, which is Doctor Ratio and Kafka, it will total up to 102 special summon tickets. This is only for special summon tickets, and we are not considering the standard banner summons, right? And if you are going to be buying a monthly pass, so a monthly pass is going to give you another 42 days worth of Stellar Jade on top of some of the additional honoric shards. That's going to roughly equate to 126 special summons, and then if you're going to be a battle pass holder, it's going to become a 134 summons. So that is the rough calculation with regards to the estimated pool income. Now jumping straight into Ruan Mei, she is a team-wide harmony support, and being our very first limited harmony unit, Ruan Mei also brings a whole new set of buffs that we have never ever seen before, all of which benefiting our entire team. So the kit that Ruan Mei we have seen from the live stream, she's not like your typical hyper carry support where she seeks to give all the buffs to a single unit. You can see that most of the kit revolves around buffing our entire team or increasing the weakness break efficiency for our entire team. So some of the benefits include weakness break efficiency from the skill, speed buff from the talent, all type rest penetration from the ultimate, as well as extended break duration and additional damage. So that is her rough kit that we have gotten from the live stream. And as for supplementary 4 stars, Ruan Mei is also the first ever banner to feature the brand new 4-star on the first half of a version update, this time featuring Xue Yi, on top of incorporating Ting Yun, which is an extremely powerful harmony support. So generally speaking, Ruan Mei's 4 stars are really powerful and really good for players. So the final verdict as the first ever limited harmony unit, it is gonna be an 11 out of 10. Now as direct as this sounds, Ruan Mei's banner is likely the strongest banner that honkaistarrail has ever seen since launch. Day one players will understand supports are extremely important in a team comp. You can make any DPS work with the right support, but you can't brute force a DPS to work without a right support. For CN, they they believe that Ruan Mei will drastically change the prevailing hypercarry meta with her team-wide buffs, which further improves duo DPS or even DOT comps to shine, competing with our current hypercarries. Even for a hypercarry setup, break efficiency as well as all type res are all extremely powerful buffs that Ruan Mei can provide, even if they are applied to a single DPS. Worst come to worst, if hypercarries are still proven to deal much more damage with regards to the current damage dealers that we have, there's two teams that players need to create anyways, and Ruan Mei can very easily fit into the second team just based on how little harmony supports we actually have in our game. And as a result, players pretty much won't go wrong pulling for Ruan Mei as compared to say pulling for a DPS, because generally in all gacha games, most DPS they experience a power creep or competition much earlier than support categories. So that is that for Ruan Mei's verdict. Now moving on to Dr. Ratio, he is a single target follow-up DPS carry. He is an impressive DPS carry that can deal tremendous amounts of single target damage through repeated follow-up attacks with his skill, ultimate and talent. Now keep in mind, even though we do not know his exact damage multipliers, the fact that Dr. Ratio has a pretty high frequency of even triggering the follow-ups means that he's going to be an excellent toughness bar breaker, especially against single target enemies like elites or bosses, right? So for his skill, he has a 40% base chance to trigger a follow-up due to his talent, increasing the trigger percentage with the amount of debuffs marked on the enemy target. His ultimate is also similar to Topaz, except it also has a damaging portion on top of launching additional follow-up attacks. As for Dr. Ratio's supplementary 4 stars, considering that we are getting him for free, I genuinely cannot believe this shit, guys. Players do not need to concern themselves with his banner's weaker 4 stars as compared to Ruan Mei, since Hook, Shu Shang and Natasha all have better substitutes as of version 1.5 going into 1.6. So the verdict for Dr. Ratio, first of all, he is literally free. You don't really have to worry about whether you should pull for him or whether you should not pull for him. Should players invest in him? Now, if you were to come to this question, players should invest in Dr. Ratio if they are lacking an imaginary DPS or if they have his key teammates such as Topaz. Dr. Ratio, he's definitely less flexible and universal compared to Ruan Mei, but with the right setup, he will very likely deal tremendous amounts of damage, especially for players who are still lacking an imaginary DPS, such as players who did not manage to put in Builder Lune or just simply don't have Weld, right? As a free limited unit, there's no harm in investing in Dr. Ratio and try him out, especially for new players. If you just started out playing this game, this 5-star limited hunt carry is definitely going to be dealing a lot more damage than our usual 4-star counterparts, especially at Eidolons 0 to Eidolons 0, right? For CN, they believe that Dr. Ratio's team would be very interesting, namely Topaz and Weld, as they both enable portions of Dr. Ratio's kit, right? High follow-up frequency from Dr. Ratio can trigger Nambi more often on top of Topaz, proof of that debuff, which just increases all follow-up attack damage. While Weld's 3 debuff afflicted by himself, namely Imprison, Slow, as well as damage taken, can increase Dr. Ratio's trigger percentage. Last of all, Ruan Mei as a team-wide supporter also perfectly synergizes with Dr. Ratio's team comps, since if we are going to be running Dr. Ratio with either Topaz or Weld, then this kind of duo DPS team comps will fit perfectly with Ruan Mei. Generally speaking, we're not exactly sure whether Dr. Ratio's damage or his entire team's damage can match up with the hypercarry team comps as we have seen right now. Hypercarry Jing Liu, hypercarry Imbued Lune, or hypercarry Sile. But MiHoYo is definitely starting to pivot into the multitude and a new variety of team comps over the normal hypercarry. So I will be personally looking forward to that. Hey guys, MrPokke here, back from the future, and just a quick little message from our sponsor of today's video today, Honkai Shop. Now recently, they have been ever so kind to actually send me an official MiHoYo merch that is this huge pom-pom plushie. It's really big, it's really fluffy, it's really high quality. Me and my viewers, we've really enjoyed looking at this plushie together. If you guys are thinking of where can you get official MiHoYo merchandise or even other unofficial MiHoYo merchandise, Honkai Shop has got you covered. They feature a lot of different items like I've mentioned in my previous sponsor with them. They have a Kafka mechanical keyboard, all sorts of keychains, dress-up doll, as well as the official merch such as this Herta spinning doll, chibi figurines, and etc. So if you guys do ever want to get yourself any Honkai starrail related merchandises, head on over to Honkai Shop, use code Pokke for 10% off and get it for yourself today. So once again, thank you Honkai Shop for sponsoring today's video. Now, with the two new units explained, I'll just very briefly go through what Blade and Kafka has to offer. For Blade, he is our only HP scaling DPS as of version 1.6, even going into 2.0 with Black Swan and Sparkle. His impressive bulk and ease of use makes Blade an extremely comfortable DPS, especially for new players struggling to gear their team, right? His enhanced state, which is after using his skill, deals AoE damage while draining health, and this health drain can be pretty substantial, so most of the time we do want to run Blade with another healer. After taking 5 stacks of any HP drain that is self-inflicted or enemy targets or even DOTs, Blade will then launch a big 5 target follow-up attack, which also heals himself for a substantial amount of health. And lastly, his ultimate just does a huge amount of damage the more HP Blade loses in between the ultimate intervals. For his supplementary 4 stars, exactly the same as Ruan Mei, which is one of the best 4-star banners to date with Xue Yi, Ting Yun, as well as March 7th. For the verdict, Blade's value is definitely excellent for new players because of the simple reason he can expand a player's usable relics and thus stamina efficiency when we are farming for relics. Now, Blade's damage, not to be mistaken, it is not extremely high, partly due to a lack of synergistic supports other than Bronya, with our roster of supports mainly focused on attack buffs, which Blade really does not require. However, Blade has no issue right now clearing the current endgame content while being extremely safe and comfortable to use due to his high health pool and extremely easy to understand mechanics. Watch out for crowd controls that will prevent Blade's follow-up attack, and that might lead to situations where Blade might actually die because the follow-up attack heals him for a pretty substantial amount of health. For CN, they believe that Blade's archetype as a HP scaling DPS will always have a place in a player's account since it opens up a whole new set of relics that will otherwise become unused, right? Drastically improving a player's stamina farming efficiency as well as reducing their wasted relic pieces. So an excellent example is if we are going to be farming for like our attack percentage, crit rate, crit damage pieces, we are just not using the HP pieces at all. Blade is someone that can actually make use of an HP percentage main with the crit ratio substats, right? He is essentially like a recycler for your relics. If you're not going to be using those relics anyways, why not just give them plus 15, give it to Blade, and watch Blade do tons and tons of damage without investing in additional relics. Now, going into Kafka, she is, as we know by now, the foundation for all DOT team comp. Because of Kafka's unique DOT trigger mechanic, this will instantly consolidate Kafka's value from now and all the way into the future as long as DOT team comps are viable. Even in the end game stages without lightning weakness, right, such as a very first stage, right, they are weak to wind, they are weak to quantum, but they're not weak to lightning, or at least not both enemies. Even in these stages, Kafka can still excel as long as your DOT teammates are on element because of a skill and ultimate which triggers any DOT marked on the target, with the ultimate and talent themselves having the large DOT multipliers. And secondly, Kafka also scales more with stronger DOT units we get in the future. We're not exactly sure how Black Swan's kit work, but as we get more and more DOT units, especially 5-star DOT units, Kafka's value is definitely gonna be able to maintain itself as compared to the typical DPS, which can only be ran as a hyper carry for the most part of the time, right? Talking about supplementary 4 stars, unfortunately, she has the same pool as Doctor Ratio, which has weaker 4 stars as compared to Ruan Mei and Blade, since, like I mentioned, Hook, Shu Shang, and Natasha all have better substitutes as of version 1.5. Now, for Kafka's pool value, players that are interested in playing the DOT comp will find incredible value with Kafka's addition to the team. DOT comps in general are also not the best comp in terms of clearing speed, especially with a lack of powerful DOT teammates for Kafka to utilize her DOT trigger, right? Similar to Blade, Kafka also drastically improve a player's stamina farming efficiency as well as reduce wasted relic pieces by utilizing attack and speed percentage pieces without crit ratio, making Kafka's gearing really easy, right? For CN, they believe that Kafka is like a fine wine that ages with time, improving her value as more and more DOT 5 stars are introduced in honkaistarrail. But that being said, building DOT team comps will inevitably require more unit investments, and new players should only consider pulling for DOT units if they are willing to commit into building multiple DOTs in order to suit Kafka's needs. With all that being said, here are the rough Eidolon benefits for both Blade and Kafka in particular. For Blade, his E1 is a roughly 15% damage increase, very substantial for an E1, as well as because of the greatly improved ultimate burst damage. For Kafka's E1, it is a 16% damage increase, which is also very substantial for an E1, and this also allows Kafka to scale better with other DOT units, especially if he lands her follow-up attack. For Blade's E2 is a roughly 12% damage increase from the additional 15 crit rate. It makes relic farming much easier by having essentially a permanent 30% crit value, so we could see some really nutty blades with like 50% crit rate or like 250% crit damage, just like how you would build a Jingneo, so something to look forward to. Whereas for Kafka's E2, it is only a roughly 10% damage increase. Personal damage, not so much, but like I mentioned earlier just now, Kafka's skill set just scales so well with future duty units that it is actually okay. As long as Kafka can still clear the endgame content, I think players who are interested in building DOT team comp should not give up on Kafka, even if hypercarry team comps are clearing them in like a faster cycle. So the verdict for Blade is that his E1 is good enough and E2 can be compensated with better relic rolls as well as Longiverse Disciple, while for Kafka, both E1 and E2 are really good, especially as future duty units comes into play. Like I've said for the past 10,000 times, consider your positions and pace yourself accordingly. Don't get burned out, don't just pull units for the sake of pulling units, right? And with that, we've come to the summary of CN version 1.6 pulling opinion. The most universal value is going to be Ruan Mei, hands down, absolutely no contest whatsoever. For the most comfortable and tanky DPS is going to be Blade, while the DOT archetype is going to involve Kafka. Now, some potential weaknesses is that for Ruan Mei, her kit is multi-DPS focused, and hyper carry meta may still prefer the traditional Bronya plus Tingyin plus Pela plus Seowolf. Unless the multi-DPS content actually becomes meta, Ruan Mei's bigger composition right now is going to be Bronya. But that being said, it is also to say that players can never run both Ruan Mei and Bronya at the same time, right? Because we can run two different teams. And because we can run two different teams, then I think at the end of the day, this is not a very big deal for players to consider about. Secondly, for Doctor ratios, he does suffer similar issues experienced by Han right now, which is a lack of mob clearing capabilities. Most content I've seen so far, mostly on multiple elites as well as mobs, so Doctor ratio having to wait to take his turn slowly and to clear all these mobs one by one may prove to be an issue, but we'll see how this actually works once we pair him up with another flop attacker like Hopes. Now for Blade, like I mentioned, his damage is not the most impressive and it drastically falls off if players do not have Bronya or due to a lack of a close substitute. And then lastly for Kafka, Kafka's lateral investment for multiple units as well as tracers to have elemental coverage is going to be quite a challenge, especially for new players, especially since two teams are required for any player to invest in a traditional team on top of a DOT team, right? If you guys are not going to be playing DOT, then you probably would never raise Sambo, you probably would never raise Ruga, you might raise Square Knife for the Monofire, but I digress. Compared to a player that only invests in like all the endgame content as fast as possible, then they will probably limit their roster to like 8 or 10 units, and that is not something that Kafka pullers get to enjoy, since that is just the reality of DOT's team comps. And with that, we've come to the end of today's content. If you guys wanted to engage in further discussions, feel free to leave a comment down below, or just head on over to Discord at Pokke's Village, where we're a very active community talking about honkaistarrail on a daily basis. If you guys want to check out my stream, that's going to be twitch.tv/MrPokke, where I stream 2 to 3 times a week, and the schedule will be updated on Discord as well, right? So that's all I have for today. All the best for the Ruan Mei pools, all the best for the Blade pools, all the best for Kafka pools. If you're going to be pulling for Doctor ratios, Eidolons, all the best for Doctor ratio pools, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care. I genuinely cannot believe this shit. I genuinely cannot believe this shit. I genuinely cannot believe this shit, guys. Did I say how I genuinely cannot believe this shit? I genuinely cannot believe this shit, guys.